Hey friend, welcome back to Acre Homestead. We are heading out to the garden to do an entire garden tour / inventory. My neighbor is mowing, but I think that will be okay. We are also gonna do some harvesting. That's why we need to get out there and do some inventorying, because honestly, I have not really spent a good amount of time in the garden in probably 2.5, almost 3 weeks. This is kind of the best time for us to be going through this remodel on the new house. If you're new, we just bought our dream homestead and we're currently remodeling it, and we're keeping our garden so we can have it through harvest. But it was perfect timing because I got it all planted. You were there with me as we planted everything out. But the thing is, there's this kind of like lull period. It's glistening in the sun. Once you plant it before harvest, there's probably about a month and a half where we just wait before anything really massive comes in. Now, I've been harvesting lettuce almost every day. We have a big salad either for lunch or dinner, and it's just been wonderful. Oh my gosh, there's things that are happening. We're gonna see them together. I cannot believe I've been not out here in such a long time. I got a basket so we can harvest as we go. The first thing, now there are weeds, so we're just gonna ignore those, but these are red Chinese noodle beans. These are going to be a vining plant. So I planted them along here and along that side, and they're gonna come up this trellis. And so I want this entire trellis just covered in these red noodle beans. They are an Asian style bean. They get about 1 foot to 1.5 feet long, and they're just gonna be dangling down this trellis, and it's gonna look absolutely fantastic. And look at our container gardens. These are beautiful. In here, we've got some really nice beans, which is good because I'll show you we've got quite a bit of damage on some of our other beans. This is a Rebecca. We started from seed together. Our tomatoes in here are just going bananas. And we have radishes. We need to get out and we need to harvest some of these radishes. Oh yeah, let's see. These are French radishes, and they are looking great. We're gonna eat some of these with dinner tonight or with lunch today. Look at how beautiful those are. We have some carrots here that are looking fantastic. There's a pepper plant here. I don't know how well it's gonna do with all the tomatoes. That's okay. We have some more green beans in here. This tomato is beautiful, and it looks like we're having some weed pressure in our ginger. So I'm gonna take care of that real quick. We have not turned the irrigation system on yet because it has been the absolute wettest spring in history, well, in 81 years, I think. And now we're getting into the high 90s for this week for the first time. It's actually the first week it's been over 80 degrees all summer. And so the irrigation system is going to be turned on. And these pots are definitely going to be needing some irrigation. But I have to say, these grow bags are just making these plants look absolutely beautiful. They're exploding with growth. I haven't been out here. I haven't pruned anything. My pepper plants, they might be a little bit overcrowded. That was a worry when I planted them, but they were extra plants. So we'll see how they do. Get some weeds out of this ginger. So I'm gonna need to come out today and we're gonna water all of these pots because they have not been watered in a couple days. Put these in our basket. Another thing that I'm loving, friends, are my green stalks. I have 2 of them and you can see how they've exploded. This one is just strawberries. And this is the first strawberry of this year I'm gonna harvest from our own garden. We've got 2 of them here. Gardener's privilege is getting to eat the first strawberries of the year. Oh my goodness. This could be a little bit riper. This is working beautifully. I need to come out here and harvest all these runners. Each one of these little runners is a new plant that's forming. This is how strawberries propagate themselves. There's the mother plant, the one that's in here. They shoot off these runners. These will actually root out if I put them in soil. So I'm gonna give them another week or so, and then we're gonna harvest these and we're gonna make more strawberry plants. And then this green stalk is just so beautiful. My nasturtiums are exploding in here. This is exactly what I wanted. I need to get out here. Oh my goodness. We have chamomile, our kale. We've been having kale quite a bit and quite a bit of lettuce. And this is exactly what I wanted. I never fully planted out this green stalk because I just never ended up having the time. But I have to say, even though I didn't fully plant it out, I think it's stunning. I can link these down below along with a discount if you want one. There is a sale on green stalks. It's buy one, get one 60% off. Plus, if you use my code, you get an extra $10. And trust me, you're gonna want more than one. I have 2, and I think next year I'm gonna order 2 more. This is perfect for patio gardening or just even in a garden where you want to maximize your space. I'm loving it. Oh my goodness. For my strawberries, because I struggle with slugs and I haven't had any slug pressure on these strawberries whatsoever, which is a huge plus for us. I just found 2 more. I think I'm gonna put these in the basket and I'll give these to Josh. So what I wanted to show you when I got shocked when I came out here is I have not even noticed this yet. Our potatoes are flowering, which is a great sign. This means they are starting to produce tubers under the ground, underneath all this straw. And we will harvest these potatoes once these plants flower and start to completely die back. We also have our potatoes in our grow bags here. I'm loving these grow bags for potatoes so far. The true test will be when we go to harvest them, whether they produce well or not. I have the same variety of potatoes in my grow bags and in my in-ground bed, and they seem to be growing a lot bigger in the grow bag. If you watched me plant out these potatoes, the potatoes that I put in these grow bags are called indeterminate varieties of potatoes, which means they continue to grow and grow and grow. And you can continue to bury them and they will produce potatoes along the stem as you bury them. But I can't bury them anymore because they are fully to the top of this grow bag. So I'm curious to know if we're gonna get a good harvest of potatoes from these potato bags. And I'm really happy with them so far. But oh my gosh, there's another strawberry. These green stalks are amazing. So like I said, the true test will be when we go to harvest them, and we definitely will harvest them together. It feels so good to be out here. I'm telling you, friends, it's been way too long since I've been out here. Let me show you something I just noticed. We have our carrots, some petunias, kale that's going crazy, our onions. Oh man, I gotta weed this. That's okay, they're doing great anyway. But this is what I wanted to show you. This is all of our chamomile for chamomile tea. So we got to get out here and harvest. It's so easy to harvest. You just take your finger. I take my fingernail actually. And I just take the flower heads and I break them off. I guess that is the beauty of not coming out here for a little bit, is you get to come out here and just see. I'm seeing more things. Oh my goodness. It smells fantastic. So I want to show you the garlic. The garlic, we probably only have about 3 weeks or so before we are going to be harvesting it. Maybe a little bit longer. It depends on how this heat wave is. We harvest garlic when the first 3 leaves die back. And with this heat wave, that's probably going to happen pretty soon. There are some weeds in here. These are not weeds. This is actually spinach that's gone to seed. So I think I'm gonna harvest the seed once that happens. But there are some weeds in there we need to take care of. I planted almost all soft neck varieties in here because I wanted to be able to braid them. I found more things that are just exploding. And you can't braid hard neck varieties, and that's why I chose to plant soft neck varieties. The one downside is soft neck varieties don't give you garlic scapes, which are the flowering head of garlic. I have elephant garlic that's planted throughout my entire landscaping. So I have been harvesting the garlic scapes from those elephant garlics, but I really don't have any garlics. Oh, that's not true. I lied. All that to say, I lied. These right here are garlic scapes. So apparently I did plant, and here's an elephant garlic variety. This is a really big one because this is elephant garlic. So what happens with hardneck varieties of garlic is they produce a flower, and you want to remove this because it puts more energy into the flower than the bulb or the head of garlic. And so if you harvest this, then you get to eat this as well because this has a really garlic flavor. So as I've been harvesting these, I've been throwing them in the freezer, and we're going to freeze dry them and we'll turn them into garlic powder. I need to get a little bowl for the chamomile, and then we'll come back out and we'll harvest a bunch more of that. This is what I wanted to show you. My calendula is blooming and it's so beautiful. I didn't plant any of these yellow flowers. These are calendula. They self-seeded themselves from last year. In here, our cabbage is looking fantastic. It's growing amongst all of this growth. These here are radishes that went to seed, and I'm gonna harvest the seed pods. They actually taste, I think, better than radishes themselves. I'll show you what those seed pods look like. They're starting to form here, but you can't really see them yet. And they have a nice radish flavor, but they have the texture of a nice sweet pea, but it's not quite as harsh as a radish flavor. They're really good sauteed in a little bit of butter, eating them fresh as a snack, and they're just fantastic. I can see in this jungly mess that my sweet peas are starting to grow. Finally, they have been battling rabbits, and so it's good to see that we are getting some production off them after they were demolished by rabbits. I'm gonna come and pick a bunch of them. And I don't know what happened here. I think something ate one of my cabbages. These cabbages still have quite a bit of growth that they can grow. They're forming their heads, but we're not anywhere yet near harvest on these. And over here, we have some cauliflowers forming. We might have to harvest that pretty quickly, actually. Well, not quite yet. They're pretty small in there. There's that beautiful cauliflower. It's starting to separate a little bit, so we might actually need to harvest this because I think it's starting to go to flower. Let's get the other one. These clearly could have gotten a little bit bigger, but if I let them stay in the ground, once they start to open up like that, they'll be no good to eat. And I'm happy with it. We'll grill these on the grill tonight for dinner, and we'll have some wonderful cauliflower. In this cauliflower cabbage bed, our cilantro has gone to seed, which is great because we can harvest it for coriander, the spice. The seed of the plant is what we call in the US coriander, and the leaves of the plant are what we call cilantro. And that's what this little flower will turn into. It'll go to seed, and we'll have coriander we can cook with all winter long. I think this pot is absolutely stunning. This is exactly what I wanted. It has my borage, and I see bees on this every time I come out into the garden. It might be a little bit toasty out here for them right now. That's why they're not out here. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's absolutely beautiful. I planted those for the pollinators, and I think with the purple and the pink nasturtiums, it's absolutely stunning. So coming this way, we have our very first straw flowers that are coming to bloom. These are a red variety, and then over here we have a white variety. This must be the bright white variety. I have an ivory one and a really white one. This must be the white one. We've got a weed here I need to pull before that goes to seed. This bed is exploding. We have our celery down here, and look at these celery stalks. They are coming along nicely. I think that's fantastic. I love growing celery. But along with the celery, this is a cabbage batch, and we've got quite a few really nice cabbages that are coming along in here. This one and that one back there, we probably could harvest. We have some Napa cabbage that's coming along nicely, or Savoy cabbage. That might be Savoy cabbage. Our red cabbage is just starting to produce heads, so we've got a little bit longer on that. And then our kale is wonderful, and so are our cone flowers. This is echinacea, and this is going to be blooming really soon here. Coming from the celery cabbage bed, we have our beautiful tomatoes, and these things are thriving which is fantastic. There are quite a few weeds in here I should probably come out and get, but I'm loving this trellis. They're already grown exponentially since last time we were out here. They all have flowers on them, which is really encouraging to help pollination. You can come in here and just wiggle the flowers and that helps. We've got all different varieties of tomatoes in here. Uh-oh. Looks like we have one that needs a little bit of help. Let's get this guy up here like this. There we go. There we go. Much better. I need to come out here and do some pruning. When I say come out here and prune, what I'm going to do is come out here and prune these bottom leaves. I'm going to say something pretty controversial here in just a second. And I need to trellis them all, kind of get them weaving in and out. These bottom leaves need to come off. That helps prevent disease. I should weed all of this too. I'm about to say something pretty controversial when it comes to tomatoes, tomato care, tomato harvest, tomato, all the things tomato. And I made this decision well before we even knew that this new property was even an option, is I am not going to prune any suckers off these tomato plants. And I made this decision last year. If we come in close, ignore the weeds. A sucker is where you have your main stalk of your tomato right here, and you have a leaf branch coming out here, and where there's a branch that's coming out at a 45-degree angle, that is a sucker. And I've got a couple suckers on this plant that are growing pretty well. I should probably trellis this just a little bit. I pruned like crazy last year on my tomatoes, and I talk about this last year that I think I pruned too much. What the experts say is you should prune your tomatoes to where you only have one stalk, main stalk growing. You prune all your suckers, and what that's supposed to do is it's supposed to put more energy into the fruit it's producing on that one stem. The experts do say that you're going to get less fruit because you're cutting off suckers that are going to produce flowers and ultimately produce fruit for you. But it's supposed to give you a stronger plant and bigger tomatoes on the ones it produces. I think last year I pruned, well, and they say you're not supposed to necessarily prune your determinate tomatoes. So these are all my indeterminate ones, the ones that are just gonna grow crazy and get really tall, taller than this trellis probably. And I pruned these, all my cherry tomatoes, and I think I lost a lot of fruit because of that. And with everything going on in my life right now, I thought, you know what, this year, I'm gonna give this year a year. One, because pruning is a lot of work and it takes time. And I think I'm just not gonna do it because I think I wasted a lot of fruit because of it. I'm giving myself permission not to do that. And it's working out great because I'm not taking the time to prune. But it's gonna be an experiment year. This might be the worst idea ever. I am gonna prune the bottom leaves like I was showing you where I was taking them off where they are a little bit yellow. Because what that does is that helps prevent disease. Disease on tomatoes mostly comes from the ground and things when it rains or when you water. Those bacteria and fungus and molds and things can come up out of the soil, touch your plant, and the least contact with the ground possible, the better. So I am gonna prune those, but I'm not gonna prune the suckers. And let me show you this perfect example right here. So we have our tomato, and this is the main stalk that's coming up right here, which we have some fruit gonna hopefully come right here. And this big branch right here is a sucker. And there are some flowers that are forming right up here. And so hopefully we're gonna get tomatoes here and here. And then obviously I want this to continue to grow. Let's see if I can trellis this without breaking the main branch. Like that. But I am going to come down here and I'm going to take all of these leaves off because these are all touching the ground and those aren't going to produce fruit. You only get fruit from suckers and from the main stalk. So here's one that's just overgrown. Let me prune it and I'll show you what it's gonna look like when we're done. So there you can see how much better it looks. We have our main stalk here, and we have 1, 2, 3 suckers. And all the foliage, this is all the foliage I pruned off that. By pruning the foliage, like I mentioned, you not only help prevent the disease from, oh, there's a bunny. That's probably the bunny that's been eating my peas. The bacteria and funguses from coming up off the soil, but it also lets airflow, it lets the plants dry out. And that just also helps prevent funguses because they can dry out. That might be crazy. You might have opinions on that. Tell me what your thoughts are on it. If you have ever done a year where you don't prune your suckers. I mean, this could be a terrible idea, or it could be the best idea I've ever had. I'm not gonna know until I try this. Now, what I could probably do is prune half my tomatoes and not prune half. I made this decision well before I knew that we were gonna be remodeling another house at this time, so I'm just sticking with it. Let me know your thoughts. I know that I'm not an expert gardener, so don't do as I say, don't do what I do just because you hear me do it. Just enjoy the journey, follow along, and we'll see together how it goes. But I will show you something that's pretty exciting that is already growing pretty well in here, and that's our tomatillos. I did come in here the other day and I weeded this walkway. The weeds were as tall as our tomatillos and you couldn't see or walk through this walkway. And I did the same thing over here. And since I was in here last, this has happened. I have tomatillos forming all over these plants and there are flowers just everywhere. Bees and pollinators love tomatillos. And right here I have a ground cherry and I'm starting to see some flowers form on that. So that is extremely encouraging because salsa verde is my husband's favorite thing I can. And if he loves it and he's gonna eat it, I wanna make a lot of it for him. I love to make enchiladas out of it. We like it with chips. We like it as topping on burrito bowls. We love salsa verde, so hopefully we get a lot of tomatillos off those. So in here is one of my pumpkin patches and these squashes are starting to grow, which is really encouraging. I've got about 6 different squashes in here. We've got 4 different varieties. And this seems to so far be at a success, but this right here is an absolute total failure. I see 1 corn come up and I don't even know if that is a corn. This might be a corn. It is full of weeds. I planted over, I think it was like 450 corn seeds and not 1 came up, maybe 1. So this was a fail. I don't know if it was because I tilled. I know that there's controversy with tilling. I don't know if I didn't water it enough. We had, like I said, tons and tons of rain. So I don't know if it was bad seed. I've had a problem with germination this year. When we get to this bed, I will talk about that more. But overall, this corn has been definitely a disappointment. I did find a couple more. I think this is one here. This might be one. This might be one. It's really hard to tell because there are a lot of weeds that came up. Oh, I think I see one right there. Corn is one of those crops that you need a lot of it in a small space in order for it to help pollinate each other. So unless something drastic changes, I think the corn is an epic fail this year, which is okay. I didn't have a great corn harvest last year and I can buy organic corn from local farmers and preserve that. I did that last year. I can do it again this year. I was just really hoping we would get a corn harvest. One thing I think we're gonna get a lot of, speaking of harvest, are potatoes. This in here is also an experiment. We planted the same day together. We planted the corn. This is the old chicken run. And all I did was throw the potatoes on the ground, cover them in straw, and they are just exploding in here. And I love to see it. That is the thing about gardening, is some years do really, really well for certain crops and some years do terrible. I had a pretty poor potato harvest last year, and the year before I had an exceptional one. And I think honestly this year, I might be speaking too soon, but I'll show you a couple other reasons why I think this. I think we're gonna get a lot of potatoes this year, and that will be fun because I'll have a basement to store them in. I didn't have a very good place to store them in this last year. And so I had to can them, or we had to eat them really quickly. And with the amount of potatoes I'm thinking we're gonna get this year, a basement is gonna be really good because I'll be able to keep them cooler and keep them in their whole form, which is the way I prefer to store them if at all possible. Now we're back to this bed. We haven't looked at this bed yet. Speaking of poor germination, I wanna talk about this bed here and this bed here. I think we're gonna start over here because it has the worst germination of the two. First though, the nasturtiums are going crazy and they look absolutely beautiful. We have a couple zinnias that are starting to sprout. I mean, look at that, that is stunning. So I'm happy about that. Our onions are starting to bulb up in here, which is great. So we're gonna get some good sized onions out of this bed, which is encouraging. But I planted probably 25 squash seeds in here, and we only have 2 of them that came up. This is a calendula flower that self-seeded itself, and the rest of this is weeds that I need to come out here and weed again. I'm not sure what happened in this bed because I did not plant one variety in here. I planted 6 different varieties. I did not plant from one seed company. I planted from 5 different seed companies. And so I don't know if I didn't water it enough again. I'm not sure what I did. Last year I seeded all my pumpkins in this bed and they did fantastic. So you win some, you lose some. So in here, they just did not do well. The 2 plants that are in here look super healthy and strong. So we are, you know, hopefully gonna get productive fruit. Oh, there's another one, that's new. Okay, so this was not here last time I was out here. So now we have 3 squash plants in here, which is amazing. I'm so excited and grateful for that. Tons of weeds, no judgment here. Nobody has a perfect garden. And here is our other one, and this one looks fantastic. I'm super happy with the look of it. Down here, we have more calendula, more weeds that need to come out, and we have some of our micro tomatoes in here. Since we're looking at this, we might as well take a peek. These are called micro tomatoes. They're definitely the first fruits that I have growing. So we'll see how they do. We have another beautiful nasturtium. More beautiful borage. And then this is our other squash bed. We have a straw flower here that is blooming. You can hear how that sounds like paper. And in here is where we have our zucchini. I have 2 store-bought ones that I purchased, and I don't see any fruit on the green one yet. On the yellow one, there are some female flowers in there, and it looks like that could have been pollinated. Female flowers are the ones that have the fruit end on them. Males are the ones that don't have any fruit on them. I also planted more zucchini in here from seed and some winter squash down there. The germination in this bed was much better. I have 4 squash down here that have germinated along with a bunch of weeds. And I have 2 here. These ones are looking a little yellow, like they need a little bit of fertilizer. So I have to come out here and fertilize them. This all right here, all this craziness, this is all cilantro. And I think I might go ahead and pull this cilantro up because it's kind of getting in the way of my squash plants. I think I'm gonna have enough coriander from those seeds over there to harvest, and we'll enjoy that coriander, and I'll give this to the chickens. They'll enjoy a cilantro coriander. Oh my goodness, it smells good. If I ate this, it would taste absolutely terrible because it's gone to seed flour and it will be super, super bitter. But the chickens will enjoy it. Sometimes when I grow food, if I don't get to it like this, I could have harvested a bunch of the cilantro before it went to seed, but I just never got to it. I could feel guilty about that, and I kind of do if I'm gonna be honest with you 100%. But I also can look at it as a very fantastic food source for my chickens because they're not on grass right now. The only food source they really get are when I pull weeds. I throw the weeds and I give it to them, and they're gonna enjoy that. It'll make their eggs more nutrient dense, and with egg prices right now and the way things are going with that, I'm loving that I can share my eggs with my friends and family. They can get a more nutrient-dense egg because they're gonna be eating some delicious garden fresh produce. And it'll be a win-win. One other thing in here, our peas here were mowed down once by that bunny that we saw earlier, and they're starting to come back. I actually was already snacking on a bunch of them. There's a ton right in here, and I was enjoying those just a second ago. These are snow peas. So you eat them like this. I don't know if any of these are gonna make it inside because I'm gonna eat them all before they can. So I'm gonna have to tell Josh if he wants some, he better get out here in the morning and start harvesting some so that he can enjoy them as well. This was a fun experiment this year, and they are blooming. These are pink dandelions. They're a Japanese variety of dandelion. You can eat the greens. I'm probably not going to, but I just wanted to grow them as kind of a fun novelty thing. In here we have a micro tomato as well. We have our snapdragons. And in this bed, we have all of our sunflowers. These are a dwarf sunflower. I can link these sunflowers. This one's almost done. It's only about 1.5 feet tall, so it's perfect for containers. And you don't have to worry about it shadowing your other plants. I can cut this and you can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more blooms that are gonna come on this plant. I love sunflowers, but because sun is such a big issue in my garden, that I don't want to grow those 6 and 8 and 10 foot tall sunflowers because they will shade out my other plants. And when you're dealing with micro sun usage and you have trouble growing peppers and things because of it, I don't want anything in my garden that's going to shadow anything out. And that's why I found those micro sunflowers. I have another one that's a little bit sooner along, not so done, that I can show you that's really beautiful. This bed, I am proud of it, even though it's not perfect. This is our pepper bed. Every single one of the peppers that we have in our beds, we started from seed. This is a weed, from seed together. And I'm just so proud of that fact. And in here we have a ton of flowers because I wanted it to be beautiful. And they are starting to grow, which is really encouraging. In this bed, we also have a ton of lettuce. We have been eating salads almost every single day. It's been fantastic having salads. I need to probably plant a little bit more so that I can try to push that harvest out longer into the summer. We don't tend to get so hot like a lot of places that can't grow lettuce in the summer. If I keep it planted, we can generally have lettuce all year long. That is if I keep it planted. This bed is also looking pretty fantastic. This is where our sunflowers are. Now there are weeds in here that need to be weeded, but we've got peppers, and we also have our poppies. Last time we were in the garden together, I couldn't figure out what these funny shaped pod looking things were. Well, they are my poppies. They're just billowing in the wind. I've got another one right up there. And overall, the peppers are doing okay in this bed. They're not perfect. They're not perfect because the sun has just not been out. And I think this next week we're gonna turn a corner. These are some volunteer leeks that volunteered from last year. And then over here we have our beautiful nasturtiums again. I'm loving the nasturtiums. They are doing so much better this year as opposed to what they did last year. The leaves are just huge. And we've got one more of our potatoes in our containers. And they're flowering really nicely as well. So over here, our last pepper bed, and this is the sunflower that's looking a little bit more prime, and that's another one of the dwarf ones. We have another ground cherry here that's starting to explode, and there are little flowers on here, so hopefully we're gonna be getting some ground cherries pretty soon. 2 years ago, this was my potato patch, and there are potatoes that are popping up, especially on this end, everywhere. I hadn't been out here in about a week and a half, and it went from looking like this where you could see these individual pepper plants in here. This is a dandelion again that I planted because I wanted to. So it went from looking like this to looking like this. I don't think the peppers that are planted in here around these tomatoes are going to produce anything for me because they are just not getting the sun that they need in order to do that. You can see there's a pepper plant here, here, there, and there. When I saw this the first time, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I should come in here and pull up these potatoes and try to save my pepper plants. I didn't know what to do. So I decided to let the potatoes grow. Volunteers grow so much better than a transplant. A volunteer is just something that grows on its own. It's something you don't plant. It self-seeded itself from the year before. And maybe this year is not the year for me to have an abundant pepper year. Maybe this year, like I was saying, is for me to have an abundant potato year, and that is okay. I have a local farmer who's an organic farmer who I used to be part of their CSA, Community Supported Agriculture, and he grows phenomenal peppers, and I always buy a ton of peppers from him. And if I have to buy peppers from him again this year, that's fine. I don't know, next year, the property we're gonna be on is gonna be a much better place to grow peppers because the amount of sun we're gonna be getting. And so, you know what, again, if I have to not grow a year's worth of peppers for Josh and I because we have a year's worth of potatoes, then that's what it is. And I will buy peppers from a local farmer and we'll make hot sauce, we'll freeze them, we'll do all the things together. But peppers just might not be, or an abundance amount of peppers just might not be in our future from this particular bed right here. And I'm choosing to be okay with that. From our now potato and pepper bed, we have one more tomato patch, and this patch is actually shocking me. These plants look incredible. They're thriving, they're lush, they're beautifully green. These plants did not look like this when I put them in the ground. I should have planted them well before I did. They were yellow, they were sad looking. I didn't even show you them because I was embarrassed by them. Tomatoes are so resilient, and these plants are just looking fantastic. Now, these tomato plants are my Determinate tomato plants. Unlike the ones that I have planted on the trellises, these tomato plants will only get to a certain size. So these are a better type of tomato to plant in a raised bed using a tomato cage. These plants will probably only get about this tall, and they will produce a ton of fruit one time a year, and that is all they're gonna produce. I do need to come in here, just like the other ones, and prune some of the foliage. And I need to get them trellised up. I only have tomato cages on 5 of them, or 4 of them so far. Determinate tomatoes, you never wanna prune your suckers. So this is what experts say. I'm not an expert. Experts say, unlike indeterminate tomato plants like we have over here, that experts say you should prune the suckers and prune the foliage. Experts say for determinate varieties, you should not prune suckers because you are only going to get fruit one time off these plants. You harvest it and then this is done. The plants over here are going to produce fruit the whole life cycle of that plant. So as those tomatoes grow up the trellis throughout the growing season, they're going to continue to put on flowers, continue to produce tomatoes until they're completely riddled with disease or it freezes. So those ones, they say you should prune. These ones say you should not prune. You know me, this year I am not pruning any suckers from any plants. At the end of this bed, we have 3 melons. These were transplants that I purchased. They have not grown an inch since I put them in the ground, but I'm hoping now that it's gonna be hot, they will start to grow. I planted some green beans along this outside edge, and they are getting eaten alive. And I'm having the worst luck with green beans. This year, I'll show you over there what I'm talking about. And then I also planted along the inside, which I don't see any that have come up, but I do see some over here. This little plant right here is a carrot. So I planted carrots along this whole edge of this bed, on the outside edge and then on the inside edge. And I only see 1 carrot that's come up, so I'm not sure what that's all about. I don't know, I'm pruning foliage leaves, because I haven't been out here and paying attention, if that's part of my problem. I've been so preoccupied that I just have not spent the amount of hours out here as I did last year. I just take the tomato leaves that I prune and I throw them on my walkways. They break down in a matter of a couple weeks, and then they just become compost in the walkways. Or if it's the weather, because the weather's been so wacky this year. I don't know what it is. It's hard to not feel guilty and blame yourself, but some of it you can't just blame yourself. You have to realize that every year's different. Every seed is different you put in the ground. The soil's different, the weather's different, and it just is what it is. We're all doing our best to do our best, and this is where I could get very discouraged looking at this bed here. But it's another thing where it is what it is. Let me show you. I have not talked about this bed at all anywhere on Instagram or here since I planted it out because it's been devastating to me. These are our black beans that we saved and planted 2 years in a row from seed we saved. And it's been a battle against either a bunny or a deer that's come out every day and keeps eating all the foliage off of it. Now it is covered in weeds because I've been so upset about this bed. I've just completely neglected it. This is why I did not plant out all my black bean seeds, because I knew there's always a possibility of crop failure. This very well might be a crop failure year for these black beans. And that is gonna have to be okay because I have enough seeds that I can plant next year if I need. I did not want to invest any more resources into building fences or gates or anything here, knowing that we are going to be building a very, very big garden at the new place. And we are going to be putting deer fence in there. We are going to be putting bunny fence in there. And so I just did not have the mental bandwidth, I guess, to battle these bunnies this year. I think it's bunnies, but it could be deer too when it comes to these black beans and my peas, because my peas, it was kind of the same thing, but they're bouncing back. So who knows? The peas are bouncing back beautifully. Maybe these black beans will bounce back beautifully as well. But for these beans to bounce back, I probably should come in here and do some serious weeding. And that's something that sounds pretty enjoyable to me at this point after being out here and kind of seeing what things are looking like, just to get out here and really clean things up a little bit. See how much better that looks as opposed to that? That's so bad. Let me take a second to clean that up. As I'm weeding this patch right here, I found something cool. I let some beets go to seed last year. And so we have beets that are growing, and this plant right here, I don't know if you can see it, but that is pink celery. I let my pink celery go to seed as well. And so we have pink celery growing all throughout here. In this same bed, we have our cucumber plants here, and those are starting to grow, which is very, very encouraging. And another thing I wanted to show you over here is we have Contender green beans along with a bunch of weeds. I need to get in here and weed, but we also have a ton of purple potatoes. So I didn't plant anything on this whole back area of this bed at all. Last year in this bed, I planted potatoes from seed that I had saved. And when I went to go harvest them, nothing grew. And this year, whatever did grow that I didn't harvest is just exploding. All of these plants in here are potatoes along with some weeds. And I just can't believe all these potatoes that have grown. This is why I'm saying it's the year of the potato. We have potatoes growing in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different areas, only 3 of them which I planted, and the others are ones that just are growing and giving me abundance just because they decided to do that. And it's all balancing out. The things I've lost versus the things, oh, there's a hawk. The things I've lost versus the things that are producing for me on their own. Oh, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places for potatoes because there's a whole bed I didn't even show you yet. This entire bed we planted out together of potatoes, and they're doing fantastic along with our borage here, which is just so stunning. I love these purple flowers. They have just been attracting the pollinators like crazy. So it's all balancing out in the end. We've got a lot of potatoes. We're gonna be eating a lot of potatoes this year, and that's fantastic. I do need to get in here and do some weeding throughout the entire garden, but that's just what it is. That's what gardening is. And sometimes it just gets away from you, and sometimes there's one that's going to flower here and I want to get it before it does. I'm just going to throw that in the walkway and let it decompose there. I don't even know if that's a good idea. It's probably a bad idea. But I want to show you the blueberries and the orchard. And I just want to, half of what I'm saying to you is a pep talk for myself, because it is so easy for us to come out here and see all the things that aren't working, I haven't done, but there are a lot of things that I have done and that are working, and I need to be excited about that. And the more I tell you that, the more I believe it, even though it can be hard and discouraging, and that's just human nature to see what needs to be done or what isn't working versus what is working. And what is working are these peas. I'm gonna enjoy them. Before we go to the blueberries, I want to show you the Asian pears that are exploding. All this fruit down here, these orchards, are definitely farther along than the ones at the new house because we are at a lower elevation here. So everything is going to be about 2 to 3 weeks behind, which is totally fine because we get more sun there, and sun can jumpstart things. Like I have mentioned, I have family that lives up in that area, and they plant stuff after I do, and they're producing more than I am because of the sun. Gardens, plants love, and need and crave sun. And these blueberries, I haven't been out here since last time we were out here. It's been a month. It's been a month since I've looked at these blueberries. Oh, I could get emotional because they are looking so good. And I have been discouraged about the things that I haven't gotten to in the garden. And this is beautiful. Look at this. This abundance makes me emotional. It's just stunning to see how beautiful and productive these plants are. And these are plants that I don't do anything to. I haven't done anything to them since last year. Or no, I did fertilize these when we cleaned out the chicken coop and we built a new chicken coop together. I took the chicken coop clean out and I put them around these plants. I forgot about that. So I did do that. But things like this, where you don't do anything and the blueberries are just going to produce, the fruit trees are producing, and it's just incredible to watch. I love to see that. I see hummingbirds in this garden every single day. And let me show you a view, another view that is just warms my heart. This is what I dream of right here. There's flowers, there's abundance. If you don't look too close, it's just stunning. I forgot to show you. These are our elderberries, and they are quadrupled in size. So we're gonna plant these at the new house at some point when I show you how beautiful this walkway is. And when we don't look too close, you look with, your eyes half open, and I see how stunning everything looks. I do get emotional leaving this because this is, even though I've talked a lot about the things that aren't going right, this is the most beautiful and abundant this garden has ever looked. And this is the 3rd year I've gardened here. And I'm really, really proud and excited about what this year holds. And no year, 20 years from now, when I'm way more experience under my belt, not one year will every single crop produce as abundant as it potentially could. I don't think that's the way gardening works. And I don't ever want to have that expectation that the more I know about gardening, then I should expect it to always go right, because it's never going to. Mother Nature has a beautiful way of humbling us, and I think that's a beautiful thing. But as I look at this and I feel gratefulness and gratitude and excitement for what this year in this garden holds, I do have a little bit of sadness because I will be leaving this and someone else will be able to enjoy it. But there's so much hope and joy and excitement in the idea of building something new with our newfound knowledge, because I do have more knowledge and experience and confidence under my belt, even in just these 2 and a 3rd year of gardening, 2 to go and bring it to this new place and hopefully be an even better steward of the land there than I was here. So I guess we're ending this video on a little bit of a sappy note, but I just want to say that the garden is more than just to produce food. So if I don't produce an excessive, abundant amount of food, that's okay, because it teaches us character, it teaches us patience, it teaches us humility and being humble and realizing that you can't control things, everything. You can do your best to be a steward of something, but there are so many factors out of your control that it's just, you know, it's just a beautiful thing what the garden can teach us. We can get vitamin D, we can get exercise. There's just so much more. Sometimes I hear, you know, you could just go to the grocery store and buy that for so much cheaper. Is it worth the ROI to put in a garden like this when it comes to going to Walmart and buying a really cheap strawberry as opposed to, you know, building a beautiful tower of strawberries? And it is to me, because this is more than just food. This is about learning character and the experience of it all, and knowing that there's more to it than, and appreciating that food you buy at Walmart, because there is so much that goes into it. And just to know how much work it is for you to get a zucchini to come out of your garden, to go buy a zucchini, you feel a little bit more gratitude for that zucchini, or at least I do. So at this point, I'm rambling. I need to go grocery shopping. I got a lot of things I got to get done. I need to weed. I think I'm going to spend about an hour out here weeding before I do that, and it's going to be wonderful. I just want to say thank you for taking time out of your day to spend time with me. This has been a beautiful morning out here together. The sun is out. It's supposed to be 85 today and in the 90s this week, and I'm so excited about it. If you enjoyed this video, I'd greatly appreciate a thumbs up. If you want to watch more of my videos, I will put some videos right here you can go enjoy between now and my next upload. And I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. I hope your gardens are abundant, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye, friends.